Have you ever noticed how the worst pollution never seems to hit the richest neighborhoods? The factories, the freeways, the toxic air and dirty water? They always seem to end up somewhere else, in places with fewer resources, less political power, and little media attention. That's not an accident. That's environmental racism. It's not just about climate change or plastic waste. It's about who suffers, who's protected, and what that says about the system we live in. When most people hear racism, they think of hate, slurs, or violence. But racism also hides in zoning laws, infrastructure projects, and environmental policy. Environmental racism is the practice of placing environmental hazards, like landfills, oil refineries, highways, or industrial plants, near communities of colour and low-income populations. It's about the distribution of harm and how that harm is not random. It's strategic. Polluting industries often set up shop where land is cheap, resistance is weak, and the residents have the least political influence. In other words, where poor people live. Take Flint, Michigan. When the city switched its water source to save money, thousands of residents, mostly black working-class families, were exposed to lead-contaminated water. For over a year, officials ignored the warning signs. Why? Because Flint wasn't a wealthy suburb. It wasn't full of voters politicians cared about. It was seen as disposable. And that's what environmental racism really is. It's about which communities we treat as disposable. Or look at Cancer Alley, an 85-mile stretch of the Mississippi River between Baton Rouge and New Orleans. It's home to more than 150 petrochemical plants and oil refineries. The communities that live there? Largely black, largely poor, and now suffering from some of the highest cancer rates in the country. But you won't see that in influencer climate activism. You won't see it in Earth Day brand partnerships or minimalist TikTok sustainability hacks. Because most environmental content on social media is focused on individual choices. Reusable straws, thrifted clothes, zero-waste routines. Meanwhile, entire neighborhoods are choking on air they can't afford to leave behind. This is the central lie of environmental storytelling in the algorithm age. That the planet is dying because you didn't recycle enough. That personal guilt is more important than systemic responsibility. But poor communities didn't build the refineries. They didn't vote for the pipelines. They didn't choose to live near Superfund sites. They were priced and zoned into them. Environmental injustice is a policy decision, and the people harmed by it are almost never the people who caused it. It also intersects with every other form of inequality. In cities, freeways are often built directly through black and brown neighborhoods, destroying homes, increasing air pollution, and splitting communities apart. In rural areas, indigenous land is seized or poisoned in the name of economic development. The Navajo Nation, for example, has faced decades of uranium mining that's contaminated water supplies and destroyed sacred ground. And during natural disasters, from Hurricane Katrina to heat waves in Los Angeles, it's always the most vulnerable who are hit first and hardest. Environmental racism is real, it's measurable, it's deadly, and it doesn't make headlines unless someone dies, or unless a TikTok makes it viral. But even then, the outrage is temporary. The suffering is not. Because social media has trained us to care quickly and forget instantly, to feel the emotion of injustice, but not follow it to its root. And while the internet scrolls past another crisis, the system keeps doing exactly what it was designed to do: protect the powerful and sacrifice the rest. We like to think climate change affects everyone equally, but it doesn't. When wildfires hit California, the rich escape to hotels, the poor breathe smoke. When hurricanes devastate coastal cities, luxury condos get rebuilt. Public housing gets left behind. When heat waves strike urban neighborhoods, it's low-income families who live in apartments without AC, surrounded by heat-trapping concrete and no trees in sight. This is what environmental racism looks like during a climate crisis. It's not just about who gets hit, it's about who gets to recover, and who gets left to drown. Even as the climate worsens, global inequality deepens. The rich caused the fire. The poor are burning in it. Now here's the twist. Mainstream climate activism doesn't always help. Yes, we need awareness. Yes, we need collective action. But too often, the focus is on individual consumption. Bring your own tote bag. Use a bamboo toothbrush. Stop eating meat. While oil companies continue to pollute at scale, and governments write policies that protect corporate interests over human lives. This isn't by accident, it's by design. The personal responsibility narrative distracts us from the systemic violence happening right in front of us. It gives us the illusion of moral purity, while the real decisions are made in boardrooms and backrooms we never see. Social media plays a strange role in all this. On one hand, it has given frontline activists, indigenous land defenders, and grassroots organisers a voice they've never had before. Movements that once went ignored can now go viral. But on the other hand, the same platforms reward flattened versions of activism. Aesthetic climate content performs better than actual reporting. Infographics get shared, but rarely read. A 3-second reel of someone picking up trash goes further than a documentary about environmental genocide. Because the algorithm doesn't reward truth, it rewards engagement. And that means simplicity over substance, positivity over pain, performative allyship over structural analysis. You'll see #climate justice trending, but you won't see the toxic dumping in South LA. You'll see influencers hugging trees, but not the water shutoffs in Detroit. You'll see polished sustainability content with perfect lighting, while actual environmental collapse is happening in communities without Wi-Fi. This is what happens when a system built for clicks is used to fight a crisis built on centuries of exploitation. It looks like action, but too often it stops at the screen. It's about confronting the fact that some communities are deemed worth saving, and others are not. It means listening to indigenous land defenders, not just reposting their photos. It means protecting the black and brown communities at the front lines, not using their stories as props in white-led campaigns. And it means understanding that climate change is not the great equalizer. It is the great revealer. It shows us exactly who our systems were built to protect. So the next time you hear someone say, "We're all in this together," ask yourself, who's really paying the price? Who gets to live in safety? And who's left behind to suffer in silence? Because the climate isn't just changing, it's exposing everything we've tried to hide. And environmental racism is proof that this isn't just about the planet. It's about power.